All right. Well, I guess I have some professional obligation to watch the State of the Union. I don't really want to. I don't want to be here tonight. I know you don't want to be here tonight, but here we are. I have beer. My beer is not quite chilled yet, so I haven't started drinking. So maybe the vape because the beer doesn't have time to chill. Maybe the vape will make an appearance tonight. Of course, everything this is there's nothing in this vape other than perfectly legal substances. Of course, I would never get high on the internet ever, but I'm letting the beer chill a little bit more because I spent $20 on a bottle of beer and I'm not going to drink it while it's lukewarm. It's in a cooler right now, so hopefully it chills its way into like an acceptable formation. We're watching the State of the Union tonight, guys. For reasons past my understanding, we are watching the State of the Union. Well, we can't get Joshua because usually on Thursday nights, Joshua offers a class. It's called Thursday Night Lights. We talk about manifesting and energy and tarot cards and how to create what we want in the world. And usually I'm in that class at 9 p.m. But I can't be because we're watching the goddamn State of the Union, okay? So Joshua is predisposed. I wonder how long the State of the Union is actually going to last tonight. Does anyone have any predictions on how long Biden is actually going to be speaking tonight? Oh, on the flip side, while we're waiting for my beer to chill, I do have a Shamrock Shake. I don't normally go to McDonald's, but when McDonald's has Shamrock Shakes, I go to fucking McDonald's, okay? And I ordered a medium Shamrock Shake and they gave me a large Shamrock Shake, so that must be a sign of like something. Shamrock Shake is delicious. If you've never had one, you really need to get there. Really, really, really good. Okay. All right. Well, in exciting news, I want to highlight my friend Kyle over on Twitter. Well, everyone is much more cheerful when Joshua's around. Hi, Rachel. I haven't seen you in a minute. Yeah, I put on lipstick, and apparently the lipstick just changes everything. The lipstick is now a staple because apparently I go from looking like, I don't know, to looking like a girl when I put on lipstick. I don't know what I look like before that, but anyway, I know, no homo, Rachel. It's fine, it's fine. So Kyle Becker, we have to give a shout out and a tip of our hats to Kyle Becker. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Kyle Becker is, I think, the only right-leaning journalist who has correctly stated that these are radical left-wing protesters. What's another word for radical left-wing protester? Socialist. This video is all over the Twitters right now with people saying, Democrats are protesting Joe Biden's speech. Basically what happens is they've set up a blockade. They don't want to let Joe Biden's motorcade actually get to the Capitol. And everyone's saying that it's Democrats. And I was like, you morons, these are socialists. And of course, I have all these conservatives replying to me on Twitter saying, Carlin, Democrats and socialists are the same thing. And I'm like, you're fucking retarded, bro. But Kyle follows my work. I know he does. Kyle is a very big supporter of my work. I really have to give several shout outs to Kyle because Kyle actually really does support what I'm doing. He understands what I'm doing. He follows along with it. I'm going to be on his podcast at some point, like he's already invited. We just got to figure it out. But I have to really give a shout out to Kyle because Kyle correctly stated in his tweet, radical left-wing protesters. And do you want to know why Kyle knows these are socialists when no other right-leaning commentators know these are socialists? Because Kyle follows my work. So shout out to Kyle. Everyone should go follow him over on Twitter. And besides the fact that he follows my work, I've followed Kyle for years. He does a great job. He really does. Kyle covers things just like he hustles. And I say that in the very best way. He hustles with what he does. He's smart. He's consistent. He always shows up. I actually followed Kyle and even had notifications turned on for him for years before I even knew that he was paying attention to what I was doing. So I actually really do like him and I think he does a really good job. All right. I've got a couple channels pulled up. I have MSNBC pulled up and Rachel Maddow is crying about something. No, tell me you, no, no, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Don't tell me you can't see it. This has always worked before. Okay, you can see it if I put the Chrome tab. Okay, okay. Whew, whew. I was like, we're not going to be able to watch MSNBC. Watching MSNBC is going to be like the best part. So I've got MSNBC pulled up. We can watch a YouTube stream. We can watch other things. We could, but I like MSNBC because like watching MSNBC is like peering into an alternate reality of progressivism. And I'm actually going to be interested to see how our communist friend reacts to MSNBC as well, because it really is. It's like peering into this alternate propagandist reality. And I just think it's funny to hear how they spin things. So we're going to be watching MSNBC tonight. And that's what we're going to do. But before we get into that, I just want to remind everyone, we have a spy stream tomorrow. And I know I haven't put the credentials out yet, but we are starting a multi-day spy stream tomorrow. What a spy stream is when I take you inside a live woke training and I get access to it and I lie about who I am usually, and I get their access credentials, or I get someone else to get them for me, and then I stream their trainings live on the internet so you can see what they're talking about when you think when they think you're not listening. And I got to tell you guys, we are sitting in on a multi-day professional development training that is one of the most woke conference schedules I've ever seen in my life. We're going to be doing that starting around 10 a.m. tomorrow. That's going to go all day. We're going to do it again on Saturday. It's going to go all day. I will be canceling happy hour tomorrow, but I'm going to try to do Socialism Saturday on Saturday. We might have to do it a little bit later. That's just the way it goes. I'm still figuring out the schedule. Anyway, make sure you join us for Spy Stream tomorrow. And the way you get access to that is by heading over to my Substack, Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up as a member for $8 a month, $80 a year. You get a variety of perks to include 2 Zoom calls with me every single week. We do them on Mondays and Wednesdays. You are also going to get access to my supporter Discord, where we do movie night on Sundays. There's writers group on Thursdays. You're going to get a 10% off discount in the Unwoke Art merchandise store. And of course, you will be supporting independent, undercover, and investigative journalism. I cover stories no one else on the internet is covering. So you will very literally be at the tip of the spear. You will hear things days, months, possibly even years ahead of when the conservative influencers get around to actually covering them. I break down the woke ideology in plain English, and I will answer all your questions. All you need to do is sign up to support my work over on the Substack, Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. If you are a supporter on Locals, Patreon, Twitter subscriptions, or YouTube channel memberships, you will also be invited to Spy Stream tomorrow, and I will be putting out the credentials later on tonight, probably after I've had too much beer, for us to be able to do that tomorrow. I also want to remind everyone that another way to support the work I'm doing is by heading over to the Unwoke Art store. That is unwokeart.com, where the latest design that I have created is rather simple, but I think really straightforward. I think we need a new anti-communist revolution in this country. It is time to make McCarthyism great again, because McCarthy was right about more than he was wrong about. And the stuff he got wrong was really the fault of the CIA and the FBI, if we're honest about it. And really, I think that we need to take a lesson from McCarthy. I think that we need to make witch hunts great again. I think we need to put all these communist bastards on the spot. No offense to the commies in my chat. You're more than welcome here as long as you behave. But I hate you and everything you stand for. And so we're going to make McCarthy great again, or McCarthyism great again. With this design, you can get it on t-shirts, hoodies, even a shot glass if you feel so inclined. You can also get the latest edition of the Unwoke Wiki Special Edition t-shirt. You can only get this in the store for 1 month. And both of these designs, the Wiki one and the McCarthyism one, are 25% off right now. The discount code is automatically taken at checkout. And so grab them now while you can, because they aren't going to be 25% off for long. And these designs are only going to be in the store for the next month. So pick them up. Let's play a drinking game called Biden Lies. Every time Biden lies to take a drink, winner gets an empty glass and another drink. I don't think that's a good idea, Kino, but you are welcome to do whatever you want. All right, guys, let's get on some MSNBC. Let's see what they're saying on the MSNBCs. Looks like they're milling about.
It is still odd. I understand they have to like protect their right flank. At the same time, this is the biggest problem they have. And when she won her Senate seat, she proudly, you know, brags. It was excited about the Roe being overturned.
Yes.
I mean, so that's
they are. They are
Republican.
Thank
Gandhi,
you.
and she still possesses a position that that
Wait.
83% of Americans.
Right.
Wait.
Abortion
Wait.
is more-
Did they just call Nikki Haley the Republican Gandhi? I'm pretty sure I just heard that.
So it doesn't matter how reasonable she looks next
Marjorie.
to
Well, and on the iPad
Look
question,
at
they don't
Marjorie
have an
wearing a
answer. I mean,
t-shirt,
Alabama
a
did sort of an
statement
end run around
t-shirt.
it, but they're not answering the fundamental.
Oh God, they're all
quote-unquote
wearing
moral
white
questions
again?
that they brought up. So it's
But
like,
they answered it.
oh,
I mean, embryos are children,
right,
and it's in the Constitution. It doesn't matter what law they pass. It's over.
Does that mean you can freeze children? I mean, you know, like that's the when you're defending frozen children, you know you're losing. Right?
Exactly.
Beyond that, they also have. I think Johnson's invited someone who runs a pregnancy crisis center. I mean, they're not doing themselves any favors vis-a-vis, you know, the larger kind of questions.
I mean,
about jobs.
what's really one of the key dynamics in this election is that if everyone was smart on that side, they would just shut the hell up about this issue until November.
That's actually true.
Like, no one
True.
talk about
Chris
it.
Hayes.
We're not doing a
True.
national ban. Wait till we
True.
get in power
Shut
and then we'll
the
do whatever.
fuck
But they
up
can't
about
do that.
abortion.
They
They're
can't
going
do
to run
that.
on this because it is their strongest
Yes.
issue.
No, but they also
and the right
will
wing
keep
won't
talking
let
about
them.
it
They're going to keep
themselves.
talking
The right
about
wing
it, and
won't let
women
them.
will keep dying. And the problem is local
MSNBC
news
is
still
correct,
exists.
and that should scare
and
everyone.
Even right-wing local news will still cover a woman who has died because she was not able to get health care in the state, even of Texas. It will still be covered. It's going to happen in Ohio, in Texas. It's
Why
going to happen
isn't
in
Kamala
Florida. It will
wearing
happen
white
everywhere? And
like
those
all the
stories
other
are so
women?
compelling, just as narratives that they'll be irresistible to the media, local and national. As women die, it doesn't matter how attractive and reasonable sounding Katie Britt is. Well, and the reality is the polling on this among the Republican base, I think it's something like only 35% of the Republican Party disagrees with the Alabama ruling.
No, but Mike Johnson, I don't know
Wow.
if you all saw the Mike Johnson interview today, because he was asked about IVF.
Couldn't answer it.
And what he said was, it's
Grappling.
new since the 1970s, and we're in a brave new world.
Yeah,
First of all,
since the
he's
70s.
probably been around since the 19th. I mean, he's younger. I mean, he's not that much. He's
Are
around
this-
about
these are
1970s.
the senators
That's my
coming
point.
in?
Right. And the other issue is that the problem, and I come from the 1980s. Like I was in high school in the 1980s. And I'm just telling you, when we first started hearing about this and the whole quote unquote test tube baby, the right, I'm just promising you, as somebody who grew up Christian in the 1980s, was foursquare against it, declared it to be demonic, and did not believe it should happen. They believe life begins at conception. And if you create 12 embryos, they believe you must implant all 12 and make all 12 embryos into people because they're already people. If you say life begins at conception, that means that by definition, if you dispose of an embryo you've frozen, you have killed a person. That is what they actually believe. They can cover it up with whatever marketing and slogans and a different messenger. That is what they actually believe.
And while we're talking and we're looking at these scenes from inside, there's Tommy Tuberville, senior senator from Alabama. But when we've had those wide shots of the room, you might have noticed that there's a lot of female members of Congress who are wearing white or wearing cream, light colored, and it really stands out when you see the wider shot of the room. Those are members of the Democratic Women's Caucus who are wearing white specifically to signal support for reproductive freedom. And so this is going to be the centerpiece.
For reproductive freedom, also a socialist issue.
Of what is being said, right? With the Republicans choosing a Republican from Alabama to give the response to the State of the Union, an anti-abortion Republican from Alabama, and to have the Democratic women highlighting
Republicans
it
are
in
so
this,
goddamn
very
stupid.
high visibility.
They picked an anti-abortion person to respond to the State of the Union. Are you kidding me?
And you're not coordinating as part of this message.
No.
You both just look amazing. And
Thank you.
Speaking of which, Jen Psaki, you have a guest.
I do.
Republicans just cannot help themselves. They really can't. Literally, all they needed to do was shut the fuck up about abortion, but they're like, no, we would like to lose yet another election cycle because we couldn't shut the fuck up about abortion. Even Trump tried to tell them. Trump was like, shut the fuck up. And the Republicans were like, no, Trump, we love you. You don't even need to campaign in order to get the Republican nomination, but we're definitely not shutting up about abortion. They want to lose. There is nothing about this strategy that is going to lead to them winning anything.
Well, you do prepare, and I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier, you have lines ready, you have responses ready, you have a pretty decent sense, even though the speaker has tried to tell his caucus to stay in control, that they may not. So that is part of it. But you also,
Republicans aren't going to do anything.
The president is up there alone, and he has to trust his instincts. And so, Bill Clinton, one of his advisors before he would go up for the State of the Union, would whisper in his ear, "You have the best political instincts I've ever seen. Trust them." So part of it is the president being alone. Part of it is preparing. And I think this year especially, I think if there are responses, if there's chaos, certainly last year the president showed that he can rumble with anyone, right? He won that exchange. And so if he wants to wade into an exchange, we know he can win it. But also this year, if the rabble rises up, I think it presents a perfect split screen between the visual manifestation of the chaos in the House and a president up there who's being a leader. So I'm not one to tell him what he should do, but I think either way he can kind of win the exchange.
Jeff, let me ask you, I'm sure you've seen the excerpts. They struck me as particularly spicy. Spicy Scranton Joe, perhaps, maybe an indication of that. Tell us a little bit about how, as a speechwriter, you prevent these speeches from becoming a listicle, because everybody's pushing, cabinet members, everybody in the White House, for their things in the speech, and make it more of a story and what these excerpts may tell you about the tone of the speech.
Completely agree. I had the same response when I read the excerpts. I thought spicy, yes, but also conversational. And I think that's one of President Biden's strengths. Like, yes, it's an oration, but it's also a conversation.
Are we really pretending that Biden is going to be a master orator tonight?
Conversations. So I think you see in the language we've already seen that he's taking an
all
oration
right,
moment and
all
turning
right,
it into
hang
a
on, where'd my vape
moment.
go?
And then in terms of the list, right, the people trying to get their piece in, right, there are a lot of people in government and out of government who are validated if they have their line in the State of the Union. And that's why you want a leader and people around him
There's
who know
nothing
what they
else
are about.
in that,
And
obviously.
luckily, President Biden
Let me
knows
check
what
on
he's
my
about
beer. Hang
because he's
on.
always been about it, right? An economy from the bottom up and the middle out.
Have my cooler.
Restoring the middle class, rebuilding our infrastructure, rebuilding our economy. So part of it is resisting those impulses on a staff level.
All right, I
Part
think
of
we're
it is
starting to
leader
get to a
saying,
point of
there's
coolness.
one story I'm telling.
I'm gonna leave it in the
and
cooler a
I'm
little
gonna
while longer.
Bring in the information that advances that one story.
Jeff Nussbaum, always a pleasure. It's also true, as you and I can confirm, that people do wait for you outside of the bathroom before
Let me show you guys while they're dicking around. Let me show you guys the beer I got for tonight. This is the special beer that you guys let me buy with super chats. This is a very expensive small batch bottle of beer from Equilibrium Brewing, which I think is in Vermont. New York, never mind, New York. False alarm. And this is an 11% beer. So this is Imperial AF. And it is called Middletown Mud Pie, an imperial stout with cacao, pecans, Madagascar vanilla, marshmallow, and sea salt. And that is what I will be drinking. I'm just going to let it chill in my handy dandy little cooler here just a little while longer to get it as cool as it can possibly be before I pour it into my fancy snifter. No voting. No voting tonight. Sorry. Okay, Biden's getting into the limo. Hopefully those protesters don't stop him.
President there is taking his time getting in. Looks like he turned around and
yes, Reagan. I went with a different one. I went with a different one because it looked more appealing.
As you guys know, who Nicole and Jen, having worked in the White House and been there on big nights like this, it is very much like Christmas pageant time. Like it is all systems go, and everybody's working, and everybody has been working a lot, and things are changing right down to the very last minute. It's very high energy. It's very high stakes.
And there's always a divide. Somebody has to go with him, but most people want to watch on TV to see what the country's seeing. And so there's usually like the short straw is actually the person in the car and the car behind it, because most people want to see what people are saying and don't want to be the person that's going and fielding any last minute calls with the principal or any other changes. It's not like the American president where Michael J. Fox says, I got to write a brand new speech. The last, minute stuff, you kind of want to see what the country's seeing and hear the immediate reaction, positive and negative.
I think Biden was saying, I'm not a lip reader, but I play one on TV. I think he said feeling good when he walked out of the White House and was going to.
I'm sure that's exactly what he said. I'm
feeling
sure.
good.
Yeah. waving as he goes. Also keep in mind that this
They're
is
like, Biden is the best
this-
president
the first
ever.
time
They're
that a
not
president
really, but
gives a
isn't
State
he
of the
the
Union.
best
We don't call it
president
a State of the Union, but
ever?
it effectively is. So 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, at least one of the states of the union
Well,
that
that's a good
President
question.
Biden
Are
has
they
had
going to
to
show the
give,
protesters? I don't
had to
know.
be changed at the last minute
Let's
because
see.
of the invasion of Ukraine.
That's right. It was in 2022, and the speech that we had prepared was leading with the economy, as they often do, almost always do. And we essentially ripped up the speech, which doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does happen because of events in the world. And the speech, as you all remember, became largely about Russia
Who's
and Ukraine
protesting?
and the moment we were facing.
Socialist.
And it's not quite that at all, but I was speaking with somebody from the White House yesterday. I was curious about what they were going to say, the president was going to say about Gaza. And they said, it's not quite written yet because it is an issue. Obviously, there was an announcement today they made about aid and assistance where they want to provide the most up-to-date detail. And there are issues, especially
They
in
don't
national
know what they're
security,
going to say
where
about Gaza.
you sometimes do have to wait. You sometimes do have to rewrite it or scrap it or
Yo,
change it or move it
yo.
around where it is in the speech.
The size of this motorcade is intense. I mean, I know this always happens for State of the Union. It always happens for any presidential movement at all. But the fact that this is presidential movement and State of the Union, I mean, that was like a small city moving President Biden there.
Jen, you asked in your interview, and it was an interesting question about how the White House is preparing for potential disruption. And I think President Biden has proved he's very deft
Chuck
at
Schumer is
dealing
like
with
a
disruption
walking
when it comes from
stereotype,
Republicans.
man.
He did it very well in his previous
A
speech when Marjorie
walking,
Taylor Greene got
talking
and made a spectacle of
stereotype.
herself. How do you expect him to respond if the disruption is on Gaza?
I can tell you how I hope he responds, which is to show empathy and to acknowledge what people are raising and to say, I share your desire to end this war and to save lives in Gaza. You know, that is the piece that I don't think has been communicated as well as possible, which is that is what he's trying to do. And obviously there are a lot of people in the country, as we've seen, who are frustrated. But there's also a lot of people in the country who
find my bottle
feel
opener.
that
There it is.
some
Found
of the
it.
language they've seen from some in the Democratic Party is anti-Semitic. I'm not validating that, but it's a very difficult issue for President Biden and for Democrats because of all of that.
Yeah, one of the things
They're calling the Democrats anti-Semitic.
Is
Everyone's
anti-Semitic.
anti-Semitic.
Basically maintained
Republicans
what I would call
are
strategic
anti-Semitic.
silence on
Democrats
the
are
entire question.
anti-Semitic.
It is really
Or
striking.
it just needs to finish. I think that's what he
But
says.
finish the problem.
Finish the
which
problem.
As a phrase
Dissident
is
right-wingers
not
are
my favorite.
anti-Semitic.
And
Socialists
what
are
you see,
anti-Semitic.
however, and what you will see in the room is
Everyone's
that there are two
anti-Semitic
coalitions
now.
in American life, two parties, one of which is having an intercoalitional battle
Whoever
over
is
this
saying
issue,
something
and one
that
of which
rich
is having no
Jewish
such
people
battle
don't
over the
like.
issue, which is
That's our
foursquare
definition of
in one
anti-Semitism.
direction and on one side. That has been
No
true about
offense to
everyone
any
who's been
Jews.
speaking
I
about
don't
this
care
issue
if
from the
people are
Republican
Jewish,
Party.
but like
Every Republican member of Congress
is
has
the
walked through
definition of
halls.
anti-Semitism.
So what will be interesting tonight will be to see that in the room, because there is no division on the Republican side on the issue, and it points in only one direction.
Let's bring into the conversation now NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles. I want to bring.
The joint session will come to order.
Hold one moment.
The chair appoints as members of the committee on the part of the House to escort the President of the United States into the
It's a
chamber.
good question,
The
Mark.
gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise. The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer. The gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Stefanik. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Hudson. The gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer. The gentleman from Utah, Mr. Moore. The gentlewoman from Michigan, Mrs. McClain.
This list of names here
House
that you're
be in
getting
order. House
from
be
the
in
House
order.
Speaker, this is the escort committee, which is a long list of members of Congress and the Senate that will walk in along with the president to start his address. I want to bring Ryan Nobles into this conversation, mostly because Ryan is in the room. He can't join us on camera, but he can join
We all
us
do,
audio
communist.
only.
We all do.
Ryan, can you give us any color, any sense of what you've been seeing? One of the things that we've noticed is the number of Democratic women who are wearing white. We're told that is in support of
All right, let me get some
reproductive
beer.
rights. It's obviously making for a quite striking visual in looking at the room.
Let me see if this beer is cool.
Yeah, and Rachel, if it comes across that way on television, it's even more stark here in the room. When you walk in, your eyes are immediately drawn to this group of women, not only because they are dressed in that white color, but they're also made the calculated decision to bunch themselves all together and sit in one big block. And it certainly sends quite the message because, as I said before, your eyes are immediately drawn to them and the message that they're sending. And of course, with everything that's happening in the country right now related to the overturning of Roe v. Wade,
It smells
the
so
situation
good. It
with
smells so
the
good.
controversy over IVF in Alabama.
Who else is drinking
freezing
beer out of a
embryos,
snifter?
and then just in general, the
Look
overall
how thick it
conversation about
is.
women's rights.
Oh
This was
my
something I
God.
talked to
Oh,
Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal about this earlier today. She's
Christ.
among the group dressed in white.
This
And she
looks
said
like
this is something that
syrup.
Democratic women feel is an urgent topic that needs to be discussed. They want it to be brought to the forefront. And this is something that we see members do, right? They don't have the opportunity to
Oh
speak on
my
a night like tonight,
God.
but there's obviously millions of eyeballs that are paying attention to what's happening here in this chamber. And this is a way to subtly send a message to all those people that are
It's
watching
as
that this
thick
is
as
an issue that they
cough
care
syrup.
about. And they're not the only ones. We're going to
It's
see
hang on,
members wearing
hang on.
ribbons.
I can't hear myself. It's as thick as cough syrup. So I'm only gonna. This is gonna be a sipping beer, okay? I'm only gonna put a little bit in, and I'm gonna chill the rest to make it even more cold.
Describe as the violence connected to the border crisis. Of course, that's certainly up for debate as to whether or not
I've never had. This is only the second time I've had beer this thick before. The first time was at Pork Fest, and it was an absinthe. It was beer that was aged in an absinthe barrel.
Try to make the most important issues that they care about front and center in a speech
It's
like
so
tonight,
alcoholic, but it's so
because one of
good.
the things that members do,
It's
and
like
this is one of the things that Congressman Jayapal brought today, is that
it's like a
they
syrup that you
understand
could
this
pour
is-
on
this
an
is an
ice
issue
cream
that
and
we
be
care
very
about and we
happy.
want you to talk about in this speech, but there's no guarantee
Like
that any of that is going to
fudge.
get into the speech. So that's part of why they want to make that message heard, just in the way that they look. Rachel.
ABC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles. Ryan, thank
All right.
you. And
How is
keep
my
us-
sound
keep
compared
us
to
on
them?
Speed dial. Flag us as you're noticing other dynamics at work in the chamber there. See
All right.
Speaker Mike Johnson on the right, Vice President on the left. This is the Assistant House Sergeant at Arms. This
Sound
is the
is
Dean
okay?
of the Diplomatic
All
Corps,
right,
the
cool.
longest
Thank
serving
you.
ambassador to the United States. By tradition, the longest serving ambassador to the United States, the man who just walked on your screen there from left to right, he's the ambassador to Palau. That makes him the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps. We'll see the justices of the Supreme Court introduced shortly. We'll see the First Lady introduced fairly shortly. We'll see the cabinet introduced shortly. Let's
Not
watch a
going to
little
show
bit
the
of this for a second.
protesters. Can't even do their one job.
Watching along with us is our friend Claire McCaskill, former Democratic
Oh,
US Senator
yeah.
from Missouri.
Super
Some of,
alcoholic.
Democratic
Like
women who are in the room
super
tonight.
alcoholic.
Well, I've certainly had
You can tell her
communication
consumption is
texts
increased.
with some of my friends and former colleagues, and they are, to a person, very optimistic about the speech. They think that President Biden is going to be very comfortable in that
Balked at a
room.
blip
I
of the
don't think anybody in
protesters.
that room
That's good.
has been to more State of the Union speeches
Look,
than
communist.
Joe
Fox
Biden.
News is covering your
So,
protesters.
he-
MSNBC didn't do it.
He knows most of the people there, especially in the Senate side, very well. And they think he's going to be loose and aggressive. And frankly,
people,
everyone is assuming that
millions of
somebody's going to act
dollars,
out on the other side.
nothing.
There is a little bit
We
of
could just
concern
abolish the
that
government
there
and get
may
rid of them
be
all.
some acting out around the Gaza issue. And I think
We could
what
get rid of
you
all of
said
this.
earlier holds true.
We
I
don't
think
have to
most
have a
of the
federal
members that I've
government.
communicated
All
with
of this is
think that it will
unnecessary.
give him an opportunity to show the empathy that everyone is feeling about the loss of innocent lives in Gaza in terms of the way that war is being prosecuted.
I
just
do like
saw
the pageantry of it
Assistant
all.
House Sergeant at Arms announce the Chief Justice and associate members of the United States Supreme Court. You see the Chief there, John Roberts, in the lead, followed by Justice Sotomayor, Justice Kagan, Justice Gorsuch. All members of the Supreme Court sort of never
didn't even
attend
say
anymore, but some
Kavanaugh.
interesting mix of them always does. You see Justice Kavanaugh there.
Oh, there he is.
The president's limousine there.
Oh, they made it past the protesters.
We have, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Justice Alito hasn't attended since the State of the Union when he was kind of heckling President Obama and got caught on camera, right? That was the last time that he came.
Yes.
But we have since, so that's an interesting way to leave your mark. You'd think you'd want to kind of clean up that impression, come again and be well behaved so people would remember that. We've sometimes seen former justices, retired justices.
there.
I was just going to say
That's
if Justice Kennedy is
Yeah,
there.
it is Kennedy.
Justice Kennedy there, and we see Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson
Yeah,
over
Kennedy's
the
right
right
behind
shoulder
them
there. That's a privilege that you are allowed as a former justice of the United States Supreme Court. We should also mention along those lines that another privilege, House floor privileges, are extended to former members of Congress. There has been a little bit of buzz tonight about expelled member of Congress,
George Santos, is he there?
Sort of proudly returning and using his floor privileges to try to attend this evening.
George Santos,
he has pled guilty to multiple felony charges. Had he been convicted of any of those felonies, he would not be allowed on the House floor. But as a former member, even one who has been expelled, he technically can be there. So he's lurking somewhere.
Get it in while you can, right?
Yeah, exactly. Lurking somewhere and hoping desperately that we will talk about him and put his picture on television.
You just did. You
I have
gave
just
him
talked
what he
about him
wanted,
now,
didn't you?
maybe that'll be.
Maybe they should change those rules. Those rules seem a bit odd, doesn't it? You've been expelled. Why do you get to come back?
I mean,
because nobody ever thinks of, someone like him existing, right? It's all of our conversations with Trump. How's that possible? Well, the Powders didn't think of someone like him.
Can I just really quickly, I've been doing one of my favorite things to do is to text Republicans, and maybe just to remind people that I actually do know Republicans. I have Republican friends.
I was like, this is an app?
I know. It's .org.
That's crazy talk.
So I texted a couple of Republican friends, and it's interesting that they really are saying the same thing about what they think. I asked them the same question. What should or could President Biden say to win over the Nikki Haley supporters? And they've all been very clear that they think that he should laser focus. And they're saying that her base
what should Biden say
really
to win
women
over
who, in
the
some cases,
Nikki
don't
Haley
vote
supporters?
in
Well, they're all
primaries,
fucking
at least according to
Democrats.
women. That's who her base is. They're sort of light voting Republicans,
No.
loosely attached to the party.
Wrong.
Except for in this case, they were driven to come out because of abortion and IVF, and that he should do a heavy emphasis on trying to win over Republican women, not so much necessarily on the democracy stuff, but specifically on IVF and reproductive rights.
Does anyone actually think that Nikki Haley
I mean, he's not. I don't, as you said in the
Nikki
beginning,
Haley
he's
is
not
not
going to
a
mention
factor.
Trump. I would be shocked.
Oh, look,
by that,
Joe's
even
walking in a
accidentally.
straight line.
But is
Trip,
clearly those
trip,
bragging
trip,
about overturning
trip,
Roe v. Wade
trip.
have no clue about the
Someone
power of
trip
women in
him.
America. He's talking about Trump there. Clearly, he's also lifting up and speaking to many of those Nikki Haley voters, I think, in there, and those independent women who are outraged about IVF, may be pro-choice and feel like this is a bridge too far.
We just saw President Biden walking through the Hall of Columns. He
Right,
said
this beer is starting to go
reporters as
down
he passed
easier,
through,
which
of course, he's
bodes
on his
well
way
for
to the
me.
House chamber. He said, "I'm feeling great." Was his comment as he's approaching the room. It is just past 9 o'clock right now on the East Coast, which means that we are expecting shortly the House Sergeant at Arms, William McFarland, to announce the arrival of the President of the United States. And then what we will then
Ladies and
see
gentlemen,
is
the
escort committee. We
President
just
of
heard
the
all those
United
members of Congress,
States.
their names, all the members of the United States
I
Senate.
can do that
A
job.
big long list of members who haven't come into the chamber yet, along with all of their colleagues. Who will walk in as the escort
Has
committee
everyone
for the
mounted the
president,
like
and then he
button
will
for
start
me?
the
There's a
long
shocking
process of shaking
disparity
hands,
between the number of people who
and
are watching and
interacting
who
with
have
people
mounted the
in
like
more or
button.
less performative
Mount,
ways, depending on the
please.
member, as he works his way
Make
down
sure
that
you're
center
subscribed on whatever
aisle
platform
toward
you're
the
watching
roster.
on. Hi to
One other
people
thing to
watching
keep in
over
mind,
on Rumble. I see
there's
you.
the man who
Yup, I'm all tarted
Yeah,
up.
it's
It's
done.
true.
And we're done. Thank you.
All tarted up with the lipstick.
One thing that we'll be watching for, you guys might remember
Yeah,
when we covered
George
the State of the Union
Santos.
last year, when President Biden finished, and last year was kind of like an up, high energy, rock'em sock'em State of the Union, including the heckling and him going back at the hecklers and getting big rounds of applause. And it was like a very kind of loose, very high energy
George
thing.
Santos,
At the
king.
end of it, he stayed for 20 minutes.
Yes,
he was the last
I feel like
person
they
to
turned the lights off.
Yeah.
They
Does
were not
anybody
there.
else want to talk to me? Does anybody else? I got more. Where this came from? He loves it.
If you were with Biden on the campaign trail as a reporter or as a staffer, I mean, you'd see him do these speeches and then he'd kibitz for a long time.
This seems like a weirdly like a counterintuitive hot take, even though it's the most obvious thing you could say, which is that Joe Biden is good at politics.
Yes, he is.
Like Joe Biden is good at politics. He's very good at politics. Like the man really does know what he's doing, and you really see it in those sort of situations.
We discovered when I was still there at the White House that when we traveled with members of Congress, he was more elated. It energized him, which is so rare. That is not how President Obama would have felt about traveling with members of Congress. But it was,
You have a drink with Mitch McConnell. My favorite State of the Union.
But
That was our State of the Union.
in 2022, also, when he came back from that speech that was Russia and Ukraine heavy, we all waited to cheer for him in the Palm Room, which, as Nicole knows, is kind of the room you walk back in, you walk back out. And we were there for like an hour. I mean, he was there for
But
so
isn't it
long that
funny
night
to
for
watch
the same
MSNBC?
reason.
Isn't it like peering
And I mean,
into an
part of being
alternate
good at
reality?
politics
Like
is
we're looking
enjoying
into a
that.
different
You have to be
dimension.
the kind of person who likes
exactly
that,
right.
because you can tell when you're faking it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I
That's why
appreciate
presidents
you.
don't tend to be introverts, and the ones who are tend to be pretty miserable in the job. But yeah, I mean, we shall see. There is a pageantry and a scripted nature of State of the Union nights, which make all of these things seem familiar. That there is often, a visual signifier in the crowd on an issue or two or three. There are members of Congress who are expected to be
signaling
performative
their support
and
for
heavily.
reproductive justice.
There's the expected
Abortion.
there's the speech being put on the podium. We see the Senate president, the vice president, and
Are they dimming the lights?
Speaker of the House will be positioned over the president's shoulders. All of this stuff is very familiar, but there is a big wild card vibe that looms over all of it, because none of these is ever exactly the same.
Yes,
And
there is a big
especially
wild
in an
card
election year
vibe.
when the
Will
stakes are
Joe
so
Biden
high,
make it through the entire
especially
speech
in
without
this
falling
election year when
over?
the stakes are this high, and with a House of Representatives that is divided by two in terms of the partisan division between the parties, with the turmoil that
Jerry,
House
the guy
Republicans have
I
been
talked
through
to might
for
be in the
first
chat
time in
right
US
now,
history,
so you can
turfing
ask him
out
some
their own
questions
speaker
directly.
of their own party and replacing them with another who's now riding this majority like a bucking bronco and a broken hand on the reins. I mean, this guy is barely holding on as speaker himself, and he's only been there 5 minutes. We're showing here the man who more than
Matt
anyone
Gaetz's
orchestrated
eyebrow
the
looks
ousting of the
extra
previous
high
speaker,
tonight.
who not only
Extra
left the
high
speakership, but
eyebrow.
left Congress
Extra.
altogether. I mean, this is these are
Good.
this is a very, as they say, fluid situation, and that feeling in the room, I
that'd
think,
be really great.
can manifest in some ways as sort of nervousness.
Rail
and
the
jitters.
like button. I love it,
Tonight,
Rachel.
so
Rail
far,
the
it's
like button,
manifesting as one of
guys.
the
Can we get bingo? I don't have a bingo. Does anyone have a bingo link?
Cocktail partyist.
Anyone have a bingo?
Starts to a State of the Union
I was
that
too
think
busy
I've ever
buying
seen.
beer.
It's
I'm
also
sorry, I have no
eerie
bingo,
kind of
but I
to
appreciate
watch
the
it,
super
and
chat, Rachel.
I can't unsee it as the scene of the crime on January 6, 2021.
Yeah, good point,
And to
Joy.
see it seem so sort of ordinary again and sort of behaving in its traditional way that we all, the politics nerds have been watching it for, the decades of our lives that we've been nerding out on it. But it's just changed the vibe of looking at that room. There's something eerie about it to me, that it's returned to this normalcy when
Can one of
it
the
was a
mods
space of
put the
such
bingo link in
violence
the
and
chat,
fear.
please?
And
I would
think about
appreciate it.
those members and their staffs hiding under their desks and terrified, running out of there and figuring out where to hide, where their safe rooms were, where their panic buttons were. And, it returns to such normalcy.
Hi
We're
to
doing a
everyone watching
normal
on
thing,
Twitter. I
but we're doing
appreciate
a
you.
normal thing that
Please make
precedes
sure
an
you
election
follow
that decides will
me
ever
for
get to
like
do this
socialist
again, where
stuff.
any of this will matter anymore. It's really eerie for me.
I also think that's an opportunity for the president, as strange as that may be to say, because that floor is so hallowed for him. I mean, he feels more comfortable there than I think he does in the White House. And so I would expect he'll talk about that. January 6th, election deniers, and kind of who we are as a country.
The Justice Kennedy shot is reminding me of one of the things that hangs over this election. It'll be interesting to hear if we hear about it. I think we will hear about judges. But of course, justices get to, unless fate intervenes, they get to retire when they want to retire, as long as their health obtains. Justice Kennedy clearly waiting until he had a Republican office to hand that seat over to Donald Trump to fill. A Republican.
Specifically, so it would be Brett Kavanaugh.
Specifically, so it would be Brett Kavanaugh, his former clerk. There are two Republican appointees on that court who are over the age of 71 or 72, and Alito and Clarence Thomas, the two that are not there. Their fate rests in some ways. I think their future rests a lot on the decisions they might make about that, about who wins this.
Literally how they live for the next.
Yeah, I mean, hugely important. And so that it is a 6-3 court. That 6-3-ness is not set in stone and can change, and actually is one of the things that hangs over.
Only socialists want to pack the court.
Has been publicly cosplaying unity in recent days, right? With the per curiam decision on the 14th Amendment. I mean, we can't tell much from body language in a moment like this, but man, to be a fly on the wall and understand what the social dynamics in that court are right now.
Are they honestly insinuating that the left-leaning judges were pressured into submission on that case?
And the conservative ones on really central issues to America.
We're seeing actually, there's the second
It was
gentleman, the
unanimous.
husband of Vice President Kamala Harris.
Oh, Doug.
Entering the chamber
Doug
now.
and Kamala
I
have
will say
never
it's
had
about,
sex. I
almost
maintain
9
my
minutes past the
position.
hour, which
Those two have never had
means we're getting
sex.
started a little bit
No.
late here. This is usually, I mean, we know
No.
President Biden
They've never had
on
sex.
site. He's in the Capitol. We've seen him there.
Does anyone
We've had
actually
live
think?
images
Let me
both
put
of
a
him
poll in the
leaving the White
chat.
House and of him arriving at the Capitol and being inside the Capitol building.
Let me see how
But
many of
we
you think they've
are-
ever had sex.
I'm not sure. I
Have
just wanna say
Doug
that.
not his
and
superpower. I think that's
Kamala
Remember?
ever had
They ever been on time
sex?
frame?
I just want to say that I think I would be a
Yes.
good second gentleman.
No.
Every time I see the second gentleman, I'm like, I would like that. I would be a good second
I
gentleman.
have to say,
that seems like a
over-the-top
dope
way.
job.
Hi,
I don't
Edwin.
think
It's
I
good to
would
see
vote
you
for
here, my
Kate Shaw for
friend.
anything.
I would
Regardless of
Kate Shaw 2020.
as well.
So I second, if that would be the side effect of us getting Kate in power,
Yeah.
I would take it. I would take it. And I think a lot of people would too. In terms of the guests that are in the room tonight, I mean, this is fascinating to be able to see all these the people from different branches of government chatting to each other for this extended period.
Who often don't have an opportunity to have these conversations.
Exactly.
No, like,
One of the
His
reports that we
penis
got
is
from our whole reporting team
unburdened
is
by
that
what
when Justice
has
Ketanji
been.
Brown Jackson, the newest member of the court, walked into
Indeed.
the chamber,
Indeed.
there were loud
Indeed.
cheers. from
Whatever. I'm
Democratic
already drunk,
women
apparently.
members of Congress who were
This
near the
bodes really
aisle.
well for you
Here's
guys.
First Lady
I've had
Jill
like
Biden,
3 sips of this beer and
entering
I'm
the room in
already
a
drunk.
beautiful kind of sage green.
It's kind of sage, right?
The showcase of the sort of box seats
No.
where the first
Oral
lady
sex
sits
does
with
not
her,
count as sex.
with her handpicked guests. Many of whom have
Yeah,
been,
I
or
wouldn't be
all of whom
surprised
have
if
been
Doug
sort of
was
advance
secretly
noticed
gay. I
to
wouldn't
the
be
press and the
surprised
public in
about
terms of
that at
who's going to
all.
be sitting
Kamala
with
is
her. A lot of them
absolutely a
will be
fag hag.
referenced
You know
during the
that.
president's speech this evening. The signal here is that this is getting close to
Mr.
beginning.
President or Mr. fucking Speaker, whatever.
Mr. Speaker, the President's Cabinet.
Oh, so close. I forgot about the cabinet.
Cabinet led by Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, looking hale and hearty. It should be noted. Attorney General Merrick Garland. You think of him as short. He's not.
He is short. Yes, he is.
This is usually the last part of the process that happens before we get the president himself introduced. But yeah, it is a boisterous
there's
and
Pete.
happy bunch in the room. Am I right that this is kind of vibing different than other states of the union?
It is. It's also interesting to see, well, people interacting, but who is friends, I guess, and who decides to sit next to each other. I mean, I just noted Mitt Romney and Joe Manchin looked like they were in a brother, a best friend comedy there or
That's
something.
because all they
sitting
have is each
together.
other.
And who chooses to sit with each other is interesting too.
I think we had Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz sitting next to each other.
A
Sort
different
of
kind of movie.
critical mass thing happening there.
What could go wrong?
They're besties.
Claire McCaskill watching this along with us. Claire, are we misreading the vibes here?
It's always pretty much like a little gab fest as you wait around and wait around and wait around. Now, I will say there's some work being done here. I don't know if you noticed, but you saw Schumer and Pelosi, and Schumer was doing his gesturing like, I'm going to win this point and I'm going to make you give in to what I want. And I also noted Pelosi talking to McConnell. So Pelosi's working, and so are some of the other members. They're running around finding people. It is very unusual to have the House members and the Senate members together like this. And it's one of the only times that the senators feel outnumbered because there's so many more House members. But it's always pretty much of a gab fest before it starts. This doesn't feel particularly more convivial than normal. It's kind of an uplifting.
Those
time to
vacant
be
homes are owned by
in the
someone,
moment
bro.
when
You're
there.
taking those.
Although an hour later, when the president is still talking, there is a little toe tapping that begins.
You see the Interior Secretary there, Deb Haaland. You see the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. You see Lloyd Austin here, the Defense Secretary in the
Does anyone else
foreground.
want to punch
We
Merrick
just saw
Garland
the
in the
Defense
face?
Secretary, the
I'm not saying I'd ever do that.
Secretary,
I don't
Pete
endorse
Buttigieg, the
violence. I
Energy
would never
Secretary,
engage in
Jennifer
violence. I'm
Granholm.
also a girl. I'm not going to punch a man in the face.
so
I'm not
the UN
stupid.
ambassador
I might
and
be
Thomas
bitchy, but
Springfield
I'm not
there.
stupid,
So,
okay?
I
But
will
yeah, I
mention
really
this
do
is
want to punch
always
Merrick Garland
sort
in
of
the face.
awkward because it's a little bit dark, but because of the number and diversity of government leadership that is in this room, with the principles of the executive and legislative and judicial branch, not to mention the United States military, with everybody in that same room. Each year at the State of the Union, one person who is in the line of succession for the presidency.
Can you imagine supporting any of
as a
these people with the
designated
possible
survivor, and they
exception of like
explicitly do
Thomas
not go to that
Massey?
room. Just in case
I mean,
the worst
Rand
happens.
Paul, I
And
guess, can
tonight,
stay.
it is ready. The Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona.
Like,
so
all
Dr.
of these
Cardona will
people
not
are
be
awful.
there,
All of these
but
people are
pretty much
horrible
everybody
goddamn
else
people.
Will. And at this point, we're waiting for the president, himself to be announced.
One policy item just to look for tonight that I've been thinking about is the Trump tax cuts, which I think will appear in this speech for a few reasons. One is they will expire in 2025, and the next president will determine whether they're restored or not.
Great.
And number two, they're the
Great.
least popular
More
agenda
taxes.
item of the last president and his signature domestic policy accomplishment. They're also a live and pressing issue, and Democrats right now enjoy in polling an advantage on taxes, which I don't think I've ever seen in my life. And I think that's
Fuck you,
partly
Dan
due to that, and I
Crenshaw.
think we'll
Fuck
expect
you.
to see,
No one
the
invited you,
president make quite a bit
neocon.
of hay on that tonight.
Well, yeah, and polling shows that working class voters who Biden is intent on courting for very, very good reasons, that those tax cuts and, of course, a social safety net are among
All right,
their
I
top
know she's a
concerns over any.
floozy, but I love Laura
number of the
Boebert.
people
I
who
really
are
do.
going
I
to be
think
sitting in the First Lady's
I
box
love that
with
she just
Dr. Joe
gives
Biden
no
and are
fucks.
people who are there to highlight the issue of healthcare, prescription drugs, the insulin price cap, and those matters, including a man with blood cancer who has one of the drugs that Senator Klobuchar was telling you about, Chris, just a few moments ago, one of the drugs that is targeted for the first round of Medicare being able to negotiate to bring down the price of prescription drugs. That is something that has
Joe
been
Biden
on the
is a
policy wish
demon.
list in Washington for a
Joe
generation.
Biden has
and
straight
Joe
up
Biden
like
finally got it done. He's been
evil,
wanting to expand
like I
the
expect
number
her
of
to like
drugs
hold
that
a
are
pitchfork or something.
included on the negotiation list, and also to expand the benefits he's been able to achieve: the $35 insulin price cap, the overall annual cap on the amount you can spend on prescription drugs out of pocket. He wants to expand those things so that they don't just cover seniors on Medicare; they apply to everybody. And I think he'll make that case
I
tonight,
kind of envision
with
her
an
like,
exclamation point.
It's so popular.
you know,
I
the
mean, it is
demon in
more popular
paranormal
than almost
activity that we never
anything
saw,
else
but
he
you
has
could get
done,
kind of
and this
like
is why it's the
hang on, I
perfect
can't even hear
opportunity to
myself
talk
talk.
about it,
You know,
because
the
this is when
demon in
people are listening.
paranormal activity that we
Healthcare is
never
also a
actually saw,
contrast
but like
we're
you can
drawing
kind of
on
get
the
a basic
campaign.
maze on
So
stand
as
of
much
what
as
the
this is
demon
not a
looks like.
political
I kind of
speech, this is an
envision Joe
example where
Biden
there
as the
will be
same thing.
contrast with what Trump is presenting and what he is presenting, and something
This
that's
was
reflected on the
supposed to
campaign
start
trail, too.
16 minutes
Parents
ago,
there,
Mark. So
Evan
where the
Dershkovich,
fuck
the,
are they?
Wall Street Journal reporter we mentioned
Like,
earlier.
they're on
He's
Libertarian
about a
Standard
year
Time
now,
tonight.
in Russia, being held
Oh, gavel.
unjustly.
Here we go.
And
Here we
expect
go.
that to be discussed this evening.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States. Yeah, I could do that job. I did it. Trip, 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 trip. Someone trip him. You all have one job. See, only this is why Reagan is the teacher's pet. Reagan is the only one who gave me a compliment on my announcing. Joe Biden looks crazy. Fuck Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz stole my book title.
I want to keep the mic open here. See if we
That
can hear
asshole
anything.
stole my book title. Whatever, I still got it first by a long ass time. Oh, they shot Biden full of something. His eyes are black.
He's gone approximately
Does Joe
4
Biden
inches.
know where he is right now?
It's like old home week.
No, no, no. We don't need to fish for compliments. People don't want to give me a compliment. They don't have to. It's fine. I'll survive. I appreciate you, Reagan. This is why you're the
I also
COO.
just say, I mean, we're used to seeing the president in the security bubble, right? And to see him here, I mean, he's in the most secure place in the world, right? But to see
He
everybody
looks like
else
he's
just
asking for an
everybody
ice
reaching
cream
out and
cone.
just grabbing him. And touch it.
Guys,
It is an
please
unusual
mount the
thing.
like button
you
for
don't-
me. Come
you don't see
on.
this.
And there
It
is a lot
costs
of
nothing to
jockeying
mount
for
the like
pole
button.
position. to
I'm
be
drinking.
as close as possible, and that's a whole nother drama.
Do you remember Congressman Elliot Engel
Oh,
used to show
God.
up first thing in the morning to always
Please,
be on
please,
the
please.
aisle?
Right there.
Yeah, right
Please,
there himself and a seat for the mustache.
5 minutes. It's Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
The 153 that is that you see members have, sorry, I think what it's pinned to their lapel. 153 is the 153 days that hostages have been held by Hamas in Gaza.
Oh, well,
Congressman
that's
Steve Cohen
allowed.
of Tennessee, and Congressman Steve Horsford there from Nevada next to him.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey. It happens.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee.
I understand. It sucks, right?
Isn't that
That's
unless
okay. We have beer.
Yes.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who will be leaving Congress, gave up her seat to pursue that Senate seat in California. Both she and Katie Porter giving up their seats in Congress to have
they
competed
both
for that Senate seat. They
lost.
will not. Neither of those Democratic members of Congress will be going on to the general election in November. It's such a loss in terms of Democratic talent.
Congressman Barbara Lee is an icon.
Yes.
She's an OG icon of the progressive left. She was the squad before the squad. And I think there's a lot of reverence for her. A lot of friends in California really, really hate to see her leave Congress. She's a brave voice for the authentic left.
And there's MTG.
Well, interestingly, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and now MTG have all had these pole positions on the aisle, which is, we all know you have to be there very early in the morning to get.
Yeah, she was
photobombing
clearly
the
trying to do some
president.
confrontation thing with
Yeah,
them. I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
sure. I'm not sure it worked.
You saw Representative Al Green there, and I believe he's the one who came off of his hospital
Wait, did
bed
Marjorie try to
make
confront
sure
Joe?
that
What
he was
happened?
going to cast an important vote.
Did she heckle him? Is that what happened?
Claire McCaskill is still with us. Claire,
Marjorie
there-
Taylor Greene
Selfie, I love
basically
it.
just
I just
committed
have
an
to ask you about the hat.
insurrection.
isn't there a rule?
Yeah, I'm really surprised that she is not being asked to remove that hat. It makes me think that
She
Speaker
put on a
Johnson is
MAGA
really
hat.
afraid of her.
Because there's a rule. You're saying there's a strict rule, no hats for any reason, and
No,
that's all that.
actually a hat that
Oh, Mike
is-
Johnson's
I
not
mean,
going to tell her to remove a
I'm
MAGA
not
hat. He would
aware
get
of any
fucking
time a hat
crucified.
is allowed on the floor of the Senate. Now, I am not as familiar with the House rules, but you could never wear a hat on the floor of the Senate.
Right.
So
I love her.
I'm
I
not
hate her. She's a
sure,
crazy bitch.
other
but
than
I love
if the
her.
speaker just doesn't want to have the sergeant at arms tell her to remove it, because well, if he did, they'd probably remove him from speaker tomorrow, right?
That's
She'd-
exactly right.
she'd file a
That's
motion.
exactly right.
Although the sergeant
would-
at
she would
arms
get him removed as
is
speaker.
busy right now, basically trying to yank President Biden a few more inches down the aisle. Since he's-
Brooklyn, did you hear
so
that George
nowhere
Santos
near
is
the
there?
dais, as far as I can
The
tell.
balls on that
Santos
guy.
is
Way,
like-
way too slowly.
Yeah, Senator Gillibrand there,
He's going to talk to every single person in that room.
and he's look, he's fired up about it.
He's enjoying it.
All right, I'm getting some more of this beer.
The hat is an incredibly tacky choice.
stupid.
By
They're gonna
somebody
cry
who
about
I
this
think it
MAGA
shouldn't be
hat, like,
surprising
all
at this point.
night
There's nothing
long.
that she does
Oh,
that's
oh, God,
surprising.
this
but
is
it's so beneath
truly like
the
cough syrup, guys.
dignity
This is
of
crazy.
the office that she holds.
I understand why this
regardless
beer
of,
was $20 for a pint.
you know, the QAnon stuff and all of that. She's a member of the United States Congress. At some point, one would think you would aspire to have a minimal amount of dignity in your presentation. But she has no such aspiration.
And it's a Trump
No,
2020. I'm just
MTG
saying.
does not
Break
have
the rules.
aspiration for dignity. That's for
Be
sure.
forward thinking.
Just
I agree.
He's now taking the pictures for them. We've moved from selfies. Can you
He
stand
likes to
still?
take selfies.
I legitimately
It's
thought Joe
sometimes
Biden was going to make out with
easier,
her.
you think, right? Like, because people get nervous when they see
Yeah,
you or whatever,
exactly.
so they
Yeah,
fumble with it. He's like, I'll do it. I got long arms.
Did
He
she?
loves to call people family members. So if he
I was
does
just
that,
waiting for him
Yes,
to make a
yes.
call. I was
Dan
thinking
Crenshaw,
that might be
George
next.
George
Maybe it's the
Santos
way
is
out.
there.
Nicole, you and
We
and
saw
Jessica,
him.
former staffers, are having PTSD about the speed with which he is just like getting the principal to where he
Joe
needs to
Biden
be.
now almost
just
looks like a
feels
creepy old man, demon
it's
entity from
removing
Pol- Yes,
molasses too
yes,
fast.
he is the
See the
guy from
president
Poltergeist
interacting with
2.
a
You're
number
right,
of Supreme Court
Rottweiler.
justices.
Holy shit,
Ketanji
I
Brown
can't
Jackson's
unsee it
almost
now.
there
He
now.
just needs that Amish hat.
Almost
Get
there
around
now.
the corner and up the
Getting there.
dais.
Speaking with some of the, there you go, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Speaking with both the liberal and conservative justices on his way.
dropping my
Up
cell
to the podium
phone.
now.
Already drunk.
I'm guessing, I mean, Jen, you know the answer. I'm guessing this pumps him up.
Yes,
Yeah.
this pumps him up. And if you're sitting in the White House right now, you're thrilled by this because we're all here watching it and talking about it. And this shows him a person who's been caricatured as somebody that nobody in the Democratic Party wants to run for president. And people are trying to touch him and do selfies with him. So it paints a very different picture. He seems joyful. He probably is having a good time.
He doesn't know where he
Claire, did
is.
you
Of
just say
course,
Tom?
he's
That was Tom
having a
Harper?
good time.
Yeah, and obviously they go way back.
Yeah.
Mount the like
And
button for
Tom
me,
is
guys,
not
before we
running
get
again,
started,
and,
please. Come on. I need like 60 more of you
has
to
been
mount the
there,
like
not
button
as
on
long as Joe
YouTube.
Biden hasn't
Hi to
been there, but
everyone
been there
watching
an awful
over on
long
Twitter.
time.
I
He's almost there
appreciate
now, guys.
you.
He's rounding the corner. He's now over in front of the Senate section. And once he gets
Joe Biden's getting
another
lost.
few paces, he'll be up
Almost
on the
there.
dais.
He's
Claire,
getting
does
lost.
this make you miss it? Were these fun nights for you, or were these work?
The first couple of times it was really interesting, and
Please
I
let him
kept
walk up
pinching
the aisle.
myself that I was where I was when Barack Obama was elected president, and while he was running, they were very interesting. We had an interesting vignette you might remember about whether or not
the safe word
Barack
tonight
Obama
is
snubbed Hillary
capitalism.
Clinton that night.
All right, here we go.
After you've gone to about 6 or 7 or 8.
Whenever I hear people talking about
then
MTG,
you
I have to wait
really
for
think it'll
context.
take
If
too long.
oh well,
Yeah.
you'll have
Yeah.
that, nerd.
Yeah, I
You'll
hear
have
ya.
that.
Yeah, it's what like the junior prom was
Thank
exciting,
you.
the senior prom slightly less, although it's the last one. But if you had to go to like post-grad and then post-doc prom, it's still post-grad prom is very sad, and it happens at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday.
That is.
Because everybody has childcare issues.
Any minute
All right, let's watch
now.
this. Let's settle in. President Biden delivering State of the Union for 2024. As prescribed in our Constitution, we do this every year. It is never the same, and it is always important, an apex moment in American democracy.
An apex moment of our democracy. Yeah. History is about to be made or broken, or nothing is about to happen. Why does Joe look like a child?
Good evening. Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now.
True. Fact check true.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans.
Oh no, he's spunky.
In January 1941, Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation. And he said, I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people
I agree.
that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now, it's we who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either. Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas.
Oh, good.
At the
We're
very
Team
same
America
time.
World Police already.
Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond.
What is going on with Joe's
If
eye?
anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not. But Ukraine,
Let's send them another
Ukraine
$60
can
billion.
stop Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine
No.
and provide
Wrong.
the weapons
No.
it needs to defend itself.
Fuck you. No. Look, fuck you, Republicans. Fuck you. Sit down.
That is all. That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American
We've
soldiers.
given them like billions and
In fact,
billions of
there are
dollars,
no American
bro.
soldiers in war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way. But now, assistance to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership. Wasn't long ago.
The very first
when a
issue,
Republican
the
president
very
named
first
Ronald
issue
Reagan
of the State of the
thundered,
Union is
"Mr.
funding for
Gorbachev,
Ukraine.
Tear down this wall."
Are you kidding me? The most pressing issue of the American people is funding for Ukraine.
Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable. America is a founding member of NATO. The military alliance of democratic
Sweden
nations
apparently is no
created
longer
after World War II
neutral.
to prevent war.
Sweden,
and keep the
Switzerland.
peace.
I forget. One of
And
the yes
today,
countries.
We've made NATO stronger than ever. We welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. I'm going to stand up. Welcome.
Previously neutral, now in NATO.
And they know how to fight. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to NATO, the strongest military alliance the world has ever seen. I say this to Congress, we have to stand up to Putin.
We are absolutely going to war.
Send me a bipartisan national security bill.
Fuck you.
History is literally watching. History is watching. If the United States walks away, it will put Ukraine at risk. Europe is at risk. The free world will be at risk, emboldening others to do what they wish to do us harm. My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away. We will not bow down. I will not bow down.
We have reached yelling at the sky, angry old man status, and it's so early in the speech.
In a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching.
God damn it.
Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th.
Oh my God! Bingo! Drink!
Capitol and placed a dagger to the throat of American democracy. Many of you are here on that darkest of days.
I was.
We all saw with our own eyes.
I was high on the Capitol lawn.
I
have no regrets.
They come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War.
Yeah, greatest
But
threat
they
to
failed.
democracy since the Civil War.
America stood.
I would never get high at the Capitol. That would
America
never
stood
happen,
strong.
obviously.
And democracy prevailed. We must be honest. The threat to democracy must be defended. My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment
By
to speak
releasing
the
the
truth and to
video,
bury the lies.
you are
Here's
burying the
simple
truth.
You can't love your country only when you win.
Biden's face right then was so priceless.
As I've done
Bruh.
ever since being elected to office, I ask all of you without regard to party to join together and defend democracy. Remember your oath of office is defending against all threats, foreign and domestic. Respect free and fair elections, restore trust in our institutions, and make clear political violence has absolutely No place. No place in America. Zero
So
place.
we have Ukraine, January 6th. Those are our top two issues.
Again. It's not
Now let's go for the
hyperbole
abortion
to suggest
trifecta.
History is watching. Or watching. Your children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do.
Oh, that's very nice
History
of
is
him.
watching
Thank
another
you,
assault on
Chris.
freedom. Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, a social worker from Birmingham, Alabama. 14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF.
They are going to do abortion third. I'm a prophet. They're doing
The Alabama Supreme
abortion.
Court shut down
I
IVF treatment
said
across the state. Unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade.
Ha!
She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family had got through should never have happened unless Congress
I was
acts
right.
it could happen
Pay up.
again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer. Guarantee the right to ADF. Guarantee it nationwide. Like most Americans, I believe Roe v. Wade got it right. I thank Vice President Harris for being an incredible leader defending reproductive freedom and so much more.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you.
My predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. He's the reason it was overturned, and he brags about it. Look at the chaos that has resulted.
Look at Joe's face.
Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas.
Thank you, Alex.
She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act, Kate and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose, criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need.
You guys suck.
Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look, it's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following. And with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
Did he just threaten the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade?
Clearly.
Wow. Although he's not wrong, Roe v. Wade totally fucked the Republicans for the rest of their natural lives.
Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women. But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024.
Yeah, probably. Probably true.
If you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again. Folks, America cannot go back. I'm here tonight to show what I believe is the way forward, because I know how far we come. 4 years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century. Remember the fear, record losses? Remember the spikes in crime and the murder rate, raging virus that took more than 1 million American lives, of loved ones, millions left behind? A mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness. A president, my predecessor, failed the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people, the duty to care. I think that's unforgivable.
Who yelled?
I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history. We have. It doesn't make news in 1,000 cities and towns. The American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told. So let's tell the story here. Tell it here and now. America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities, building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down.
I wonder who lied. I wonder if
Investing
people
in
don't
all
or
America,
yelled.
in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot. We leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our lives. The vaccines that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer, turning setback into comeback. That's what America does. That's what America does. Folks, I inherited an economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years, a record.
I just paid $12 for a cheeseburger.
Unemployment at 50-year lows.
And not even like a fancy cheeseburger either.
A record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a literal act of hope. With historic job growth and small business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting. Where is it written we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world? We are, we will. More people have health insurance today.
Why is he
More people have
yelling?
health insurance today than ever before. The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years. Wages keep going up. Inflation keeps coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world, and tending lower.
I'm sorry, what?
The landing is and will be soft. And now, instead of importing foreign products and exporting American jobs, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Right here in America, where they belong. And it takes time, but the American people are beginning to feel it. Consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America has been the law of the land since the 1930s. Past administrations, including my predecessor, including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore. On my watch, federal projects that you fund, like helping build American roads, bridges, and highways, will be made with American products and built by American workers. Creating good-paying American jobs. And thanks to our CHIPS and Science Act, the United States is investing more in research and development than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of semiconductors, chips, that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to import them, private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Many of those jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree. In fact, my policies have attracted $650 billion in private sector investment in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America.
America.
And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you. I'm with you. If any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. Modernizing our roads and bridges, ports and airports, public transit systems. Removing poisonous lead pipes so every child can drink clean water without risk of brain damage. Providing affordable high-speed internet for every American, no matter where you live, urban, suburban, or rural communities, in red states and blue states. Record investments in tribal communities. Because of my investment in family farms, because I invested in family farms led by my Secretary of Agriculture, who knows more about this than anybody I know, we're better able to stay in the family for those farms and their children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvedere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years. Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office, and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies, knowing unions would make all the difference. The UAW worked like hell to keep the plant open and get these jobs back, and together we succeeded. Instead of auto factories shutting down, auto factories reopening, a new state-of-the-art battery factories being built to power those cars there at the same.
I'm already bored. I obviously need to drink more. I was drunk for like a minute and now I'm back and I don't know what happened.
The folks of Belvedere, I say, instead of your town being left behind, your community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs of the future go overseas, 4,000 union jobs with higher wages are building the future in Belvedere right here in America.
Look at that socialist sitting up there. Who's that? With the two hair,
tonight,
the two colored hair.
Is UAW President Shawn Fain, a great friend and a great labor leader. Shawn, where are you? Stand up.
All unions are socialists. Unions are run by socialists.
And Dawn Sims, a third-generation worker, UAW worker at Belvedere. Shawn, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line. And today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again, Wall Street didn't build America. They're not bad guys. They didn't build it, though. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
All unions are socialists. That's a socialist right there. I'm sorry. I don't know who that bitch is, but that is definitely a socialist.
I say to the American people, when America gets knocked down, we get back up. We keep going. That's America.
Are we already nearing the end of the speech?
That's you, the American people.
This feels like a crescendo.
It's because of you America's coming back. It's because of you our future is bright. It's because of you that tonight we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
Is that it? Half hour. Actually, less than a half hour. We're only like, what, like 20 minutes or something? Yo. None of them even believe this.
Tonight, I want to talk about the future of possibilities.
Oh, here we go. There's more. Okay,
that we
good.
can build together. A future where the days of trickle-down economics are over, and the wealthy and the biggest corporations no longer get all the tax breaks.
Maybe he hasn't even
by
said
the way,
anything
I
about
understand
Israel and
corporations.
Gaza
I come
yet,
from a
so.
state that has more corporations invested than every one of your states in the state of the United States combined. And I represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation, but I grew up in a home where trickle-down economics didn't put much on my
He's
dad's
attacking
kitchen table.
capitalism. He's
That's
attacking
why I determined to turn
capitalism.
things around so middle class does well. When they do well, the poor
This
go
is
way
an
up and the
attack on
wealthy still do
capitalism.
very well. We all do
Please
well.
say capitalism. Say
There's
capitalism.
more to do to make sure
say
you're
it.
feeling the benefits of all we're doing. Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world. It's wrong, and I'm ending it.
He's attacking capitalism, guys. in the State of the Union right now, right in front of us.
For the law that I proposed and signed, not one of you Republican buddies voted for it. We finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month or thereabouts for insulin with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month now and still make a healthy profit. And I want to, but what to do next? I want to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for every American who needs it. Everyone. For years, people have talked about it.
He said
but
corporatism
finally, we
instead
got
of
it done.
capitalism,
We
though.
gave
So
Medicare the power
close.
to negotiate lower prices on prescription drugs, just like the VA is able to do for veterans. That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion. Because Medicare will no longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma. This year, Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market to treat everything from heart disease to arthritis. It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for 500 different drugs over the next decade. They're making a lot of money, guys. And they'll still be extremely profitable. Will not only save lives, it will save taxpayers another $200 billion. Starting next year, the same law caps total prescription drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year, even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. Now I want to cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone. Folks, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but if you want to get in Air Force One and fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow, excuse me, and even Moscow probably. And bring your prescription with you, and I promise you I'll get it for you for 40% the cost you're paying now. Same company, same drug, same place. Folks.
Not actually the
the
same
Affordable
place,
Care Act,
Joe.
the old
Not actually the
Obamacare,
same place if you're going to a different country.
It's still a very big deal.
If you fly to another country, I can get you your drugs at 40% off in the same place.
Over 100 million of you can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing condition. Well, my predecessor, many in this chamber, want to take this prescription drug away by repealing Affordable Care Act. I'm not going to let that happen. We stopped you 50 times before, and we'll stop you again. In fact, I'm not only protecting it, I'm expanding it.
No.
We
get in universal health care,
$800
yo.
per person per year, reduce health care costs for millions of working families. That tax credit expires next year. I want to make that savings permanent. To state the obvious, women are more than half our population, but research on women's health has always been underfunded. That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady. We'll pass my plan for $12 billion to transfer women's health research and benefit millions of lives all across America. I know the cost of housing is so important to you. If inflation keeps coming down, mortgage rates will come down as well, and the Fed acknowledges that. But I'm not waiting. I want to provide an annual tax credit that will give Americans $400 a month for the next 2 years as mortgage rates come down, to put toward their mortgages when they buy their first home or trade up for a little more space. just for 2 years.
I'll take it. Fine. I'll take it. I'll clap for that. Give me money. Give me my money back.
And my administration is also eliminating title insurance on federally backed mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence. For millions of renters, we're cracking down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust laws by price
Socialists hate
fixing and driving up
landlords.
rents. We've cut red tape so builders can get federally financing, which is already helping
Now
build
pay off all the
a
student
record
loans. I want my
1.7
socialism
million
to
new housing
announce it.
units nationwide.
Student loans.
Now
Student loans.
Now pass and build and renovate 2 million affordable homes and bring those rents down. To remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to have the best education system in the world. And I, like I suspect all of you, want to give a child, every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old.
No!
You know, I think I pointed out last year.
They're trying to get them earlier. 3 years old. No.
That children coming from broken homes where there's no books, they're not read to, not spoken to very often, start school, kindergarten, or first grade, having heard 1 million fewer words spoken. Well, studies show
why is that
children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school, go on to earn a 2- and 4-year degree, no matter what their background is. I met a year and a half ago with the leaders of the Business Roundtable. They were mad that they were angry. I think, well, they were discussing why I wanted to spend money on education. I pointed out to them as vice president, I met with over 182 of those folks. Don't hold me to the exact number.
I have dementia. I can't remember such
what they
things.
Need most, the CEOs. And you've had the same experience on both sides of the aisle. They say a better educated workforce, right? So I looked at them and I say, I come from Delaware.
I appreciate you.
DuPont used to be the 8th largest corporation in the world. And every new enterprise they bought, they educated the workforce to that enterprise. But none of you do that anymore. Why are you angry with me providing you the opportunity for the best educated workforce in the world? And they all looked at me and said, I think you're right. I want to expand high quality tutoring and summer learning to see that every child learns to read by 3rd grade.
I want to expand gender studies in school so that we have support groups for non-binary first graders.
Local businesses in high schools, so students get hands-on experience and a path to good paying job, whether or not they go to college. And I want to make sure that college is more affordable. Let's continue increasing the Pell Grants to working and middle-class families and increase record investments in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, including Hispanic institutions. And I was told I couldn't universally just change the way in which we dealt with student loans. I fixed 2 student loan programs that already existed to reduce the burden of student debt for nearly 4 million Americans, including nurses, firefighters, and others in public service.
Now you're going to cut the rest. Cut the rest. Cut the rest.
Who's here with us tonight? Keenan, where are you? Keenan, thank you. He's educated hundreds of students so they can go to college. Now he's able to help, after debt forgiveness, get his own daughter to college. And folks, look, such relief is good for the economy because folks are now able to buy a home, start a business, start a family. While we're at it, I want the public school teachers a raise.
No! Fuck you! No! Fire them all. God, I used to be so naive. I actually thought these people cared about things.
The deficit. Now, let me speak to the question of fundamental fairness for all Americans. I've been delivering real results in fiscally responsible ways. We've already cut the federal deficit. Over $1 trillion. I signed the bipartisan deal to cut another $1 trillion in the next decade. It's my goal to cut the federal deficit another $3 trillion by making big corporations and very wealthy finally beginning to pay their fair share. Look, I'm a capitalist. You want to make it to make
capitalism! Capitalism! Bingo! 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 We got it! Joe Biden, capitalism!
A fair tax code is how we invest things to make this country great. Healthcare, education, defense, and so much more. But here's the deal. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut. Overwhelmingly benefit the top 1%, the very wealthy and the biggest corporations, and exploded the federal deficit. They added more to the national debt than any presidential term in American history. Check the numbers. Folks at home, does anybody really think the tax code is fair? Do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion tax break? I sure don't.
This is a socialist rally, y'all.
To make it fair, under my plan, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in federal taxes. Nobody, not one penny. And they haven't yet.
Exactly.
The child tax credit,
the only non-socialist part of the speech,
for millions of working families and cut child poverty in half. Restore that child tax credit. No child should go hungry in this country. The way to make the tax code fair is to make big corporations and the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Remember in 2020, 55 of the biggest companies in America made $40 billion and paid zero in federal income tax. Zero. Not anymore. Thanks to the law I wrote and we signed, big companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. But that's still less than working people pay in federal taxes. It's time to raise corporate minimum tax to at least 21%. So every big corporation finally.
You know what we could do is lower taxes for everyone.
Tax breaks for big pharma, big oil, private jets, massive executive pay when it's only supposed to be $1 million that could be deducted. They can pay them $20 million if they want, but deduct $1 million. End it now. You know, there are 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, 8.2%. That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay. No billionaire should pay a lower federal tax rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, or a nurse.
Then you should lower the tax rate for everyone that pays higher. That's how that should work. Tom J, thank you for the super chat, Tom J. I appreciate you.
25%, just 25%. You know what that would raise? That would raise $500 billion over the next 10 years. And imagine what that could do for America. Imagine a future with affordable child care. Millions of families can get they need to go to work to help grow the economy. Imagine a future with paid leave, because no one should have to choose between working and taking care of their sick family member. Imagine the future of home care and elder care, and people living with disabilities so they can stay in their homes and family caregivers can finally get the pay they deserve. Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up for seniors. Many of my friends On the
Were
other side of it, I
seniors
want to put
oppressed?
Social Security on the chopping block.
Oh,
If anyone here tries to cut Social
Marjorie.
Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you. The working people who built this country pay more into Social Security than millionaires and billionaires do. It's not fair. We have two ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy.
all right. Last pour for my beer.
That's the proposal. Oh, no. You guys don't want
Oh, no,
another
it's not
$2
even.
trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion to the super wealthy. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy pay their fair share. Look, too many corporations.
No
raise
gaslighting,
prices
communists.
to pad their profits, charging more and more for less and less. That's why we're cracking down on corporations that engage in price gouging and deceptive pricing, from food to healthcare to housing. In fact, the snack companies think you won't notice if they change the size of the bag and put a hell of a lot fewer, same size bag.
Why are you dictating the
Put fewer
chips
chips in it.
bag?
No, I'm not joking. It's called shrinkflation. Pass Bobby Casey's bill and stop this.
Wait, did we just make the size of potato chip bags like a literal federal issue? Seriously? Did they just make the size of potato chip bags a federal issue in the State of the Union? That's our highest priority
Before we
right
all saw
now?
that commercial
No
on
one's forcing you to buy
Snickers
a bag of chips.
You get charged the same amount, and you got about, I don't know, 10% fewer Snickers in it. Look, I'm also getting rid of junk fees. Those hidden fees at the end of your bill that are there without your knowledge. My administration announced we're cutting credit card late fees from $32 to $8. Banks and credit card companies are allowed to charge what it costs them to instigate the collection. And that's more, a hell of a lot, like $8 and 30-some dollars. They don't like it. Credit card companies don't like it. But I'm saving American families $20 billion a year with all the junk fees I'm eliminating. Folks at home, that's why the banks are so mad. It's $20 billion in profit. I'm not stopping there. My administration has proposed rules to make cable, travel, utilities, and online ticket sellers tell you the total price up front, so there are no surprises. It matters. It matters. And so does this. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh?
No!
The conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges, help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now.
Fuck that asshole from Oklahoma whose name I forget. What a turncoat.
100 more high-tech drug detection machines to significantly increase the ability to screen and stop vehicles smuggling fentanyl into America. That's killing thousands of children.
Langford. Thank you, Reagan. James Langford.
This bill would save lives.
Yes.
And bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming.
So like now.
The Border Patrol
like
Union has
now?
endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low, look at the facts. I know.
Mike Johnson should rip up the State of the Union. You do what Nancy Pelosi did. It would be so great.
I believe that given the opportunity for a majority in the House and Senate would endorse the bill as well, a majority right now. But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win. He viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really.
What? Meds are wearing off. He lost his place. He lost his place. Oh no! Oh no! What's going on?
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself.
Is he going off script?
Understand.
He's going off
But
script.
look,
He's going off
if
script.
we change the dynamic at the border, people pay
Fucking
pay these
Marjorie,
smugglers
man.
$8,000 to get
Way
across
to
the
go,
border.
Marjorie.
Because they know if they get by and let into the country, it's 6 to 8 years before they have a hearing. And it's worth it taking the chance of the $8,000. But if it's only 6 months, 6 weeks, the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money and come all that way, knowing that they'll be able to be kicked out quickly. Folks, I would respectfully suggest my Republican friends owe it to the American people, get this bill done. We need to act now.
Marjorie, man. Fucking Joe Biden said capitalism before James Lindsay. It's true.
Instead of paying politics and pressuring members of Congress to block the bill, join me in telling the Congress to pass it. We can do it together.
Yes. Everyone
But
owes
that's
Mark
what
$2.
apparently, here's what he will not do.
Including me.
I will not demonize immigrants saying
Or
they
you can
are
just pay me.
poison in
I
the
appreciate
blood
the
of our
donation,
country.
Mark.
I will not separate families. I will not ban people because of their faith.
Marjorie.
Unlike my predecessor on my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive
Based
bill
Marjorie.
to fix our immigration system. Take a look at it. It has all these and more. Secure the border. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers. And so much more. But unlike my
You guys want to watch
predecessor,
Tucker Carlson's live response to the State of the
I know
Union?
who we are as Americans. We're the only nation in
It
the
starts
world
at
with a heart
10:30.
and soul that draws from old and new. Home to Native Americans, whose ancestors have been here for thousands of years. Home to people of from every place on earth. They came freely. Some came in chains. Some came when famine struck, like my ancestral family in Ireland. Some to flee persecution, to chase dreams that are impossible anywhere but here in America. That's America. And we all come from somewhere, but we're all Americans.
Sweet. Thank you, Mark.
Folks,
Thank
we
you.
have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing
Thanks,
the border,
Terry.
or we
Appreciate
can fix
you
it.
guys.
I'm ready to fix it. Send me the border bill now. A transformational moment in history happened 59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama. Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to vote. They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague, John Lewis, was on that march. We miss him.
That's true. Well, I don't want to use Biden as a positive example, though, is the problem. But it's a good point, though, Tayton. Thank you.
Our other marchers, both in the gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known as the voice of Selma. The daughter of gospel singers and preachers, she sang songs of prayer and protest on that bloody Sunday to help shake the nation's conscience. 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act passed and was signed into law. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But 59 years later, there are forces taking us back in time. Voter suppression, election subversion, unlimited dark money, extreme gerrymandering.
See you, Jerry.
John
Thank you
Lewis
for
is a
stopping
great friend
by.
to many of us here. But if you truly want to honor him and all the heroes who marched with him, then it's time to do more than talk. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And stop denying another core value of America, our diversity across American life. Banning books, it's wrong. Instead of erasing history, let's make history. I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act. And my message to transgender Americans, I have your back.
I was wondering if transgender was going to be
Pass the
mentioned.
PRO Act for workers' rights.
Thanks, Andre.
Raise the federal minimum wage. Because every worker has a right
MILFs.
to a decent
The
living
MILFs
more
are
than
called
$7
out at the
an
State
hour.
of the Union.
We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't. I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world. I'm cutting our carbon emissions in half by 2030, creating tens of thousands of clean energy jobs like the IBW work is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Conserving
Thanks, Alex.
30%
Appreciate
of
it.
America's lands and waters by 2030. And taking action on environmental justice, fence line communities smothered by the legacy of pollution. And pattern after the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, I launched the Climate Corps to put 20,000 young people to work in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll triple that number in a decade.
You're all getting tired too. Everyone needs a nap.
To state the obvious, all Americans deserve the freedom to be safe. And America is safer today than when I took office. The year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up.
What was that?
The biggest increase in history. It was then, through my American Rescue Plan, which every American voted against.
What was that?
We made the largest investment in public safety ever. Last year, the murder rate saw the sharpest decrease in history. Violent crime fell to one of its lowest levels in more than 50 years. But we have more to do. We have to help cities invest in more community police officers, more mental health workers, more community violence.
This is deep on the police, by the way. This is deep on the police language.
On gun crime, retail crime, and carjacking. Keep building trust, as I've been doing by taking executive action on police reform and calling for it to be the law of the land. Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession. Because no one should be jailed for simply using or have it on their record.
Yes. Republicans be like, ban weed.
Violence. I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator. So we can finally end the scourge against women in America.
I've never felt like I was scourged upon. Have any women here felt like they were scourged upon?
What are the kinds of violence I want to stop? With us tonight is Jasmine, whose 9-year-old sister Jackie was murdered with 21 classmates and teachers in elementary school.
Oh, that's
in
the socialist.
Uvalde, Texas.
Oh, I can't
Very
make fun
soon
of her.
after that happened, Jill and I
very
went to
sad.
Uvalde for a couple of days. We spent hours and hours with each of the families.
Can't make fun of
We
her for
heard their
that.
message, so everyone in this room, in this chamber, could hear the same message. The constant refrain, and I was there for hours meeting with every family. They said, do something. Do something. Well, I did do something by establishing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House, that the Vice President is leading the charge. Thank you for doing it. Meanwhile, my predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president. Oh. After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said,
Oh, here
when
we
asked
go.
what to do about it,
Guns.
he said, just get over it. There's his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it.
Thank
Stop
you.
it, stop it, stop it. I'm proud we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Fuck you.
Pass universal background
Fuck you.
checks.
That won't be enforced in New Hampshire, by the way. We've already passed
None
a
of
law
this.
that says we can't enforce federal
None
gun
of
laws
this.
here.
I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment.
Keeping our assault
or
weapons, Joe.
vilifies responsible gun owners. You know, as we manage challenges at home, we're also managing crises abroad, including in the Middle East.
Oh, here
I
we
know
go.
the last 5 months have
Gaza,
been gut-wrenching
Gaza,
for so many people,
Gaza,
for the Israeli
Gaza.
people, for the Palestinian people, and so many here in America. This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know. 1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And 250 hostages taken. Here in this chamber tonight,
Now he's
our
not yelling, is
families
he?
whose loved
He's
ones are still being
whispering
held by Hamas.
because this is serious and he
I
doesn't
pledge
want
to
to
all
get
the
canceled.
families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home. We also we will also work around the clock to bring home Evan and Paul, Americans being unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world. Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October 7th. But Israel has Israel has a added burden because Hamas hides and operates among the civilian population like cowards under hospitals, daycare centers, and all the like. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza.
And
this war,
they've already murdered 25,000 of them at least.
Has taken a greater toll on innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza combined.
Yeah.
More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, most of whom
Says
are
who?
not Hamas. Thousands and thousands of innocents, women and children,
Wow.
girls and boys, also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin. Families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking. I've been working nonstop to establish an immediate ceasefire that would last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released. To get the hostages
Holy
home
shit.
and
He's
ease
calling
the
for a
intolerable
ceasefire in the State of the
humanitarian
Union?
crisis and build toward an enduring something more enduring.
Wow.
The United States has been leading international efforts to get more humanitarian assistance to Gaza. Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day. And Israel must do its part. Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire. And they're announcing they're going to have a crossing in northern Gaza. To the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. As we look to the future, the only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time.
Yes. Wow, Joe Biden's really giving Israel the middle finger tonight, and Israel's not going to like this. The Jews are not going to like this. I'll tell you what, man.
Israel,
he's giving them massive middle fingers.
No one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here.
And he knows he's giving them middle fingers too.
I'm the only American president to visit Israel in wartime. But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees that Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. And there's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking.
Smartest thing Joe Biden has said all night.
Also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I built a coalition of more than a dozen countries to defend international shipping and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. I've ordered strikes to degrade the Houthi capability and defend U.S. forces in the region. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and our military personnel. For years, I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise and America's falling behind. They've got it backwards. I've been saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world. And since I've come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade. And we're standing up against China's unfair economic practices. We're standing up for peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. I've revitalized our partnership and alliance in the Pacific.
Wait, are we about to go to war with China?
Australia, Japan, South Korea, Pacific Islands. I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used in China, not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict. And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well. Here at home, I've signed over 400 bipartisan bills. There's more to pass my unity agenda. Strengthen penalties on fentanyl trafficking.
His unity agenda? A unity
Pass
agenda?
bipartisan privacy legislation to
He's
protect
been
our
shitting
children
on Republicans all
online.
night.
Harness the promise of AI to protect us from peril.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Definitely.
Ban AI voice impersonations and more.
The Taylor
Keep our
Swift
truly
bill.
sacred obligation to train and equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't.
This speech is like all
That's
over the
why
place.
with
There's
strong
no
support and help from
thread.
Dennis and the VA, I signed the PACT Act. One of the most significant laws ever. Helping
One of
millions
the
of
most
veterans exposed to
significant
toxins
laws ever.
who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home. but we owe them and their families support.
Did he just say he's
We owe
banning
it to
cancer?
ourselves to keep supporting
He's banning
our new
cancer?
health research agency called ARPA-H.
How can he ban
And
cancer?
remind us that we can do
What did he
big
just say?
things like end cancer as we know it, and we will.
I mean, really, did he just say he was going to ban
Let me
cancer?
close with this. Yeah. I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things. I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, to give hate no safe harbor.
Squeezing Colin.
Now other people my age see it
Right
differently.
next to Lindsey Graham.
The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution. That's not me. I was born amid World War II when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working class people who built this country. I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm, became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard.
Yeah, we're getting an old man story.
Because of the riots. And I became a county councilman.
It's good to see you,
almost by
Ingrid. I hope you're
accident.
well.
I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29. Then vice president, or our first black president. Now president to the first women vice president.
Kamala is giving herself a standing ovation.
In my career, I've been told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic.
I mean, Argentina is always an option, of course. You have to learn to speak Spanish. Iceland has yarn in the supermarkets. I wouldn't be opposed.
My fellow Americans,
we'll see, Bocephus.
The issue facing our nation isn't how old we are. It's how old are our ideas.
All right, I'm going to get Tucker Carlson to
Hate,
speak
anger,
up.
revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas. It'll only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away. I see a future where the middle class finally has a fair shot and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans and I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
Don't you clap, Mike Johnson. Don't you fucking clap. No! Fuck you, Mike Johnson! Fuck you! Yeah, we're the government and we're here to save you. All right. I'm waiting for Tucker Carlson's live address to start, guys, and we'll just watch what's happening here until that starts. Let's watch Joe doddering around a little bit. Maybe we'll get some instant MSNBC reaction to see what they have to say.
President Joe Biden wrapping State of the Union address. We're just going to stick with this for a moment. I think the microphones are up in such a way that we may be able to hear a little bit of what he says as he makes his way out of the room. He sometimes takes quite some time doing this. Let's watch.
Because he gets lost and people have to direct him. Guys, as soon as Tucker Carlson starts, we're going to switch over to Tucker Carlson. And I do have it up on my screen right now. We're just waiting for it to start. What did everyone think? Did anyone have any opinions on the speech? Please make sure you mount the like button if you have not already. I appreciate everyone being here tonight. Remember, we have Spy Stream tomorrow, so I'm going to be sending out credentials about that. Yeah, what kind of ice cream is everyone having tonight? Just like Biden. Bernie. I thought Bernie was wearing a mask. What happened to the mask? You are stunning and brave. It was the greatest State of the Union ever. You are an amazing president, even for someone that is 103 years old with dementia. They all look like such sniveling, like, all of them. They look like ghouls. Am I wrong? Am I just making this up? Like, all of those Democrats standing around him look like ghouls. They're like, nyeh. He does, though. All of them. Oh, Bernie's got his mask back on. Bernie remembered he was on camera. I'm just going to check and make sure I don't have to reload this Tucker Carlson thing or anything. No, not on yet.
Oh, yeah, I'm sticking with it. No, really. Thank you, sir.
This guy with you does too.
Oh, yeah, he did. It was amazing. You did a good job. You were right on. Yeah, you were on fire. You were on fire. Nobody's going to talk about cognitive impairment now. Yeah.
And then they're like, you are amazing. Stunning and brave, Joe. Stunning and brave. Guys, we're just waiting for Tucker Carlson to start so we can see what he had to say. I'd like to give a big hello to everyone watching over on Twitter. I appreciate you guys. I'm glad live streams are actually getting more numbers now. That's pretty great, actually. 113 slurs. Tucker is going to be doing a reaction to the State of the Union.
See if I can get out of the way.
I almost just knocked my snifter onto the floor. That would have stuck.
What we are doing here is technically called eavesdropping.
Oh, Tucker, no.
It's
I think
not
Tucker is
easy to
starting.
hear what's being exchanged between President
Hang on.
Biden and
No, Tucker's not starting. I was
mostly
excited
members of
over nothing.
Congress and,
Oh, yes,
and
he
some
is starting.
senators.
Hang on.
Here, you're catching.
Tucker is starting, so we're going to go to Tucker. No more MSNBC. Guys, thanks for joining me tonight. Let's see what Tucker Carlson's reaction is to all of this. We can't chat in or anything, so I guess we'll just go full screen. Please make sure you mount the like button. Please make sure you're subscribed on whatever channel you're watching on. I do appreciate it. Let us know if you're drinking something fun. I'm drinking an 11% beer of some sort that tastes like cough syrup.
They told you the guys torching Wendy's in 2020 were mostly peaceful. They said that masks.
Tucker Carlson has 600,000 people watching him right now on Twitter.
They tried to convince you that Russia blew up its own
That's going to go up to
pipeline.
over 1 million, I
The
bet.
corporate media lied too much, and it killed them. We're driving to see you join us on.
Believe me when I
Wait,
tell
wait,
you.
wait. I should be boycotting Bud Light.
Fantastic job.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Tucker's live response
Oh,
to the
the
State
Heritage
of the Union address
Foundation
on the
is
Tucker
sponsoring
Carlson
this.
Network is brought to you by the Heritage
Jesus.
Foundation. Join Heritage in their fight to save America at heritage.org/join.
I don't know about that.
Free speech is bigger than any one person or
Banana
any one
pudding
organization's societies are
moonshine?
defined
That
by
sounds
what they
pretty
will not
great,
do.
actually.
What we're watching is the total inversion of virtue.
Yeah, this is going to have more
Good
viewers
evening
than
and welcome to the
MSNBC.
Tucker Carlson
Hi,
Network
Tucker.
live. That was quite an experience watching that.
It was.
You know, you think of Joe Biden as a doddering old man, a guy who
Yes.
can't remember when his son died or when he served as vice president. And of course, that's exactly who he is, and it's on display every day. But Joe Biden is also a cruel and vicious demagogue, a man who has no
True.
problem at all denouncing his fellow Americans or putting his political opponents in prison as he has done. And that was all on display tonight. That was possibly the darkest, most un-American speech ever given by an American president. In fact, it wasn't a speech. It was a rant, entirely lacking in decency or generosity to his fellow Americans. In Joe Biden's very first sentence, he compared Donald
Glad that
Trump
was
to
good,
Adolf
Nick.
Hitler. He did not describe Trump as the other party's candidate, which he is, a political opponent in a country that's had peaceful elections for 250 years. No. According to Joe Biden, Donald Trump is Adolf
Thank you,
Hitler. He's an
Kazmar. I
existential
appreciate
threat to
you.
freedom and democracy. If he wins, you will die, and so will your country. That was the first sentence. But that was really the last time he mentioned the United States at all for paragraphs and paragraphs. Biden quickly explained that actually his top priority has nothing to do with America.
Ukraine.
His top priority is sending billions more to Ukraine. A foreign war in Eastern Europe, a war across the world that has nothing to do with the United States, that the United States is not obligated by any treaty to join. Of course, Ukraine is not a member of NATO. A war that can only hurt this country and already has hurt it in grave and permanent ways. The invasion of Ukraine is the most important thing to Joe Biden. Not ending the invasion of our own country by drug cartels, which control huge swaths of the southern United States at this point, not our degrading economy you experience every day, not our collapsing schools where kids can't read at all, not the
True.
100,000 fentanyl deaths every year, not the declining life expectancy that is obvious if you look around, collapsing public health, an epidemic of suicide and murder, things that hurt Americans, ghost armies of drug addicts living on the streets, right outside the chamber
Where
where
is
the
there a
speech was
ghost
given
army
tonight.
of drug addicts?
None of that matters.
Is that Philadelphia thing?
Biden's top priority is aid for Ukraine. It was deranged. You watch this, you thought, this is insane. Does anyone in the room think it's insane? They must. Here's how the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson of Louisiana, newly elected, the man who leads Republicans, in fact, the top elected Republican in the United States of America. Here's how he responded as Joe Biden told the country that the invasion of Ukraine is his top priority. Watch this.
Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not. But Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons.
Thank you,
it needs to
Tino.
defend itself.
Yeah, that's
My
probably
message
right.
to President Putin, who I've known
Sadly.
for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away.
Appreciate you.
We will not bow down. I will not bow down.
This is crazy talk. There's no explanation of what the goal is here. There's lie after lie. Ukraine can stop Russia. No, it can't. This has gone on for over 2 years.
True.
NATO is stronger than ever. No, it's not. NATO is on its way to collapse, as is the economy of Western Europe. For not one sentence did Joe Biden explain what the goal of this exercise is, when we'll know we've won, and what the future should look like. Again, it was crazy talk. And yet, Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, nodded gravely. Oh, of course. He is completely on board with Joe Biden.
Let's just remove
on
Mike
this
Johnson.
Biden's signature
Can we just
issue.
remove him?
And that's not a
Can
guess.
we vacate the speaker again?
As of this afternoon, Mike Johnson is secretly supporting Biden's agenda, sending another $60 billion to the oligarchs in Ukraine.
Republicans.
Johnson plans to let Democrats onto the floor of the House to vote for this. This is a stealthy procedural move designed to shield him and other Republicans from criticism. Oh, the Democrats did it. But that's exactly what it is. He's the Speaker of the House.
Yeah,
He can stop it,
Dayton,
he
for
won't,
real.
because he's on board. So why is he on board? Is Mike Johnson representing his own voters as he backs Joe Biden's signature agenda item, a war against Russia? No, he's not. Republican voters in Louisiana are not for this. Republican voters nationally are not for this. They hate this. It has nothing to do with them. And it's insulting. As their country is invaded, we send billions to prevent the invasion of another country that we have nothing to do with?
Mm-hmm.
But the Uniparty demands this, so Mike Johnson is doing it. And so at some point you ask, well, why are they demanding this, actually? Why is war with Russia the most important thing?
Money.
If you look at the numbers or a map, it wouldn't be obvious that Russia would be America's
You'll be Speaker of the House,
enemy.
Brennan?
There are other candidates.
You want that job?
Could
I
it be
think you'd
because
be
Russia
great.
is the largest white Christian country in the world?
Just don't do
Maybe.
anything. No
Could it be
bills.
because they're getting rich
No
from
committees,
war? Well, that's
no
certainly
votes.
true. And there may be other
Don't do
reasons as
anything.
well. We could guess. But we don't need to, because we know that it's happening, and we know that war against Russia is not the only war we're going to be engaged in, and not the only one that Biden announced tonight. Biden also told the country that we're going to have boots on the ground in Gaza. Really? Or admitted it, in fact.
Well, he
American
said he was
forces
going to
have
build a
actually been there
pier.
for months. Did you know that?
Which
Did
is
anyone
also a
ask you?
stupid
Has anyone
idea.
explained to you, no matter where your sympathies lie, what the point of this is, when we'll know we've won? What's the objective here? American lives will be at risk. But of course, no one's told you.
It's never
And
a
of
point.
course, you already know the point. The point is to suck the United States into another foreign war that
I'm
can't
blackpilling
possibly
in
help
real time.
the United States,
I'm
a war
like,
that can only hurt us and already is
we're all
hurting
going to
us.
die.
And we're doing this not because it helps us,
Everything
but because
sucks.
foreign interests are demanding that we do it. America
There's
is
no
being
solution.
used, as we so often have been. And the result of all of this is that the world is now closer to nuclear war at this moment than at any time in history, closer than it was during the Cuban Missile Crisis. We have no idea where this is going. You never do once people start to die, once wars begin. No PowerPoint can tell you, no speech to a joint session can tell you where this is going. It's dynamic. It's completely unpredictable.
Yeah.
And that's why wise people
Tucker's going to hit
pause
1 million
before
viewers.
accelerating. But there are no wise people in charge in either party, on either side. Do you think
True.
Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State,
No.
has any clue what will happen in a war with Russia? Of course not. You can't say where this is going. This is so reckless that it qualifies as suicidal. And maybe they are, but the rest of us aren't. But the most interesting fact of the speech was the emphasis. There was not a meaningful word for the entire duration about the things that actually matter to people who live here, like crime or inflation or fentanyl or the foreign army now occupying our country. Joe Biden doesn't care. There was no upside for you in any of the things that he said. But he does have a present for you. He's got something to give you, something you want very badly. Here it is.
What?
Look, the decision to
Holy
overturn Roe v. Wade, the
shit.
Supreme Court majority wrote the following. And with all due respect,
That's
justices,
crazy, Ingrid.
women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you get right about. Clearly. Clearly. Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women. But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024.
Oh, well, you can't have a safe, clean country or groceries you can afford or schools that will educate your children, but you can't have abortion. You can have a lot more abortion. How's about some more abortion for you? That'll make you happy and free. You can have all the abortions you want. But of course, you already could have all the abortions you want. Abortion is one thing, maybe the one thing that's pretty easy to get in this country. Compare getting an abortion to getting an affordable new roof or a knee replacement. No, abortion is everywhere. It's very easy to get. And it's easy to get because the government wants it to be, of course, unlike an affordable new roof. But what's interesting is why, of all the services government could guarantee, why abortion?
Because it attacks the gender binary and the nuclear
Americans
family.
are below
Duh.
replacement. Biden and his party are encouraging Americans to have fewer children. Now, if you have a handheld
Nuclear
calculator, do the math on that.
family.
That's the path to extinction. Why would they want that? You're the leader of a country. Why would you want your
Attack the
people to have fewer
nuclear
children?
family.
You should ponder that. But let's say you're too old to have an abortion. Let's say it doesn't actually apply to you, this wonderful freedom that will make you happy. What can you do to guarantee that you will have no descendants? Well, you can always castrate your children and end your lineage. No more grandchildren. And Joe Biden wants to help.
I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act.
I was actually just thinking about that, Naruto. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Oh, trans children, I have your back. That's
Also an attack on the nuclear
but that's
family.
what he's offering. Abortion
And the gender
war,
binary.
Castration of children.
Same issue.
Not better roads and schools, cheaper electricity and food. No, abortion and war.
Same issue.
Who wants all that? I mean, some tiny percentage of CNN contributors think those are the most
All right, I'll
important
tweet
things.
it.
But most people would rather have cheaper electricity, cheaper food, better roads. And so what this means is that underneath all of the talk is a dire political reality. Joe Biden can't win. In a fair election, Joe Biden will lose.
Oh, he's going
in
to
November.
win.
He
Well, no, he's
cannot
probably not going
win.
to be the candidate.
That's the thing that nobody in any media wants to say out loud. In a fair election, Joe Biden cannot win. So they're saying the opposite. Here, for example, is the pregame analysis over at MSNBC, which we watched while waiting for Biden to dot her up to the stage.
We watched that
waiting
too.
for the amphetamines to take effect. And keep in mind, as you watch this analysis, these are supposedly the smart kids. These are the smart kids, the ones with complicated glasses. These are the ones the White House looks to for guidance. And here's their analysis of Joe Biden's skills. Watch this.
This seems like a weirdly counterintuitive hot take, even though it's the most obvious thing you could say, which is that Joe Biden is good at politics.
Yes, yeah.
Like Joe Biden is good at politics. He's very good at politics. Like the man really does know what he's doing, and you really see it in those sort of situations.
Joe Biden is just really good at politics. It's the one thing he's really good at. Really? If Joe Biden is so good at politics, why is he losing to Donald Trump, who the rest of us were assured was a retarded racist, who no normal person would vote for? But now Joe Biden is getting stomped by Donald Trump, but he's also at the same time good at politics? Right. Chris Hayes, ladies and gentlemen, the most famous lesbian in television. So again, they can't win, but they're not giving up. So what does that tell you? Well, they're going to steal the election. And we know they're going to steal the election because they're now saying so out loud. Here is the Attorney General of the United States, the chief law enforcement officer of this country in Selma, Alabama, just the other day. Listen to this.
The right to vote is still under attack. And that is why the Justice Department is fighting back. That is why one of the first things I did when I came into office was to double the size of the voting section of the Civil Rights Division. That is why we are challenging efforts by states and jurisdictions to implement discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot, including those related to mail-in voting, the use of drop boxes, and voter ID requirements. That is why we are working to block the adoption of discriminatory redistricting plans that dilute the vote of Black voters and other voters of color.
Did you catch that? Of course, you're a racist. That's always the takeaway. But consider the details of what the Attorney General of the United States just said. Mail-in balloting, drop boxes, voter ID requirements. The chief law enforcement officer of the United States government is telling you that it's immoral, in fact, racist, in fact, illegal to ask people for their IDs when they vote to verify they are who they say they are. What is that? Well, no one ever talks about
Marxism.
this, but the justification for it is that somehow people of color, Black people, don't have state-issued IDs. Somehow they're living in a country where you can do virtually nothing without proving your identity with a government-issued ID without government-issued IDs. So they can't fly on planes, they can't have checking accounts, they can have any interaction with the government, state, local, or federal. They can't stay in hotels. They can't have credit cards.
Have a good one, Reaper's son. I'm about to call it pretty
someone
soon
without
too, but I'm
a state-issued ID can't do any of those things. But what's so interesting is these same
stuff I gotta
people,
do.
very much including the Attorney General and the administration he serves, is working to eliminate cash, to make us a cashless society.
True.
Have you
That's
been
a
to
socialist
stadium
thing.
event recently? No cash accepted. You have to have a credit card. And in order to get a credit card, you need a state-issued ID. And somehow that's not racist, but it is racist to ask people to prove their identity when they choose the next president of the United States. So that doesn't make any sense at all. That's a lie. It's an easily provable lie. And anyone telling that lie is advocating for mass voter fraud, which the Attorney General is. There's no other way to read it. So you should know that. You live in a country where the Attorney General is abetting, in fact, calling for voter fraud. And that's the only chance they have to get their guy reelected. Well, for a cooler, more measured take, we suspect, on what we just saw, we are grateful to go to Victor Davis Hanson, who's a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, and he joins us now. Professor, thank you very much for coming on. I want to start right at the outset.
I'm sorry, guys.
save
I wish I
this,
could watch this.
sound.
There's 1.2 million people watching. That's pretty impressive. The problem is I'm getting really tired and I have to do stuff tonight because I just had a really long day. And we have a spy stream in the morning. Okay. So I want to thank everyone for coming out and joining me. I really do appreciate it, especially the viewers over on Twitter, on Rumble, on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you are watching on. And I hope you got good and drunk tonight like I did. As a reminder, we are doing a spy stream tomorrow morning. We are kicking off a multi-day spy stream. What that means is I'm taking you inside a live woke training. And I'm just going to show it to you live and you can come and watch it and we can talk about it and we can break down the language in it. That's going to be getting started around about 10:30-ish tomorrow and it's going to go all day. And so you can feel free to pop in, pop out. That's going to be available to my subscribers over on Substack, which is Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for $8 a month or $80 a year. If you are a supporter on Locals, on Twitter, YouTube channel member, Patreon, you will also get access to that. I will be sending out the access links a little bit later tonight. And I will see you guys bright and early in the morning, where we will get back to the business of woke infiltration and staying 2 years ahead of the normal influencers on what is actually going on in the world. Thank you to Sith over on Rumble. Spy streams, are you doing God's work, Dr. K? Keep it up. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. We're going to have a great time. It's a super woke schedule. Have a good one, guys. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.